Alright, welcome back folks. In the previous video we look at creating a route and do some simple explanation of database relationship, and we saw that we're able to connect the two entities together, that is the books and the user, and we created a route to fetch the user profile. So what we are going to do today is to able to fetch the user by 8 books and create a profile for that. But before that, we need to do a simple or a small task here when the user is creating the book. If you look at our back-end models, right, on books, when creating a book, we need a field called created by, and this one must be the ID of the user. But if you look at the current state of our application right now, inside the post book creating route, what we are getting from the front end is a records a body, that is a author, whatever, like that, and we need to associate the user who created this book, right? So we're going to make a simple tweak to this endpoint. But before that, I want to protect this route. So let me try this again inside my Postman and see what we need. So here, let me look at the book field we need. We need the category, author, title, and created by. So let me do that. So let me head over to Postman and let me copy this one, duplicate it, and then let me call this one, say create book. Okay, so the API will be books / create, right? So let me check one more time whether I'm correct. Let me head over to my servers, API books, and then the books route. The create is just books, no create, right? Because I have the route here / and my server is like books, so I have to use, so let me make use of just books. So with this, when I hit create, I might see some error, right? Book validation failed because created by is required, title is required. So let me do that quickly. So now remember, when you fetch the user profile, we don't have any book yet. Now it's empty. Now we have login as this user, as Emmanuel, this Trintech email, and when you create a book, we are going to associate this user ID to the book we are creating it. So when you fetch the user, we can see that the book will be populated into this array of books. So let's continue. So in my creating book endpoint, it needs one title here and category. These are the fields for creating the book, and the next one will be the created by field, and the last one will be, let me check again, the endpoint, book model, author of the book, author, and that's all. This an author, right? And that's all. So one will be the author, right? So here the title, let me make this one Node.js guide, and let me say category is under programming, right? And created by, it must be an ID of the user. So I'll copy the ID of the user and then paste it here. So I'll copy this one from here, this ID, and then paste it into the field of the user. And the author, let me call this one Ben. So let me create it. When I create it, as you can see, I have the user, and on the field I have created by, and then I have this user. So now let me try and fetch the user. You can see that we populated into this book field. When I fetch the user, as I can see, voila, we have it. We have the ID in the category as that. So that's what we're going to do, right, from the front end. So right, so now the request that is coming is like that, but from our front end we need to receive all the individuals. So let me go to the books route here, and here I need to protect it, right? Even though when even I remove the authentication party, let me remove the token here and I create, it will still create. Sorry, yeah, it's not, because it's protected, right? even, sorry, where is my token gone? Yeah, so let me do that and protect this route because I didn't protect it, right? So here I need to pass in my off middleware because I need to log in before. So now we have passed in. The reason why you pass in the off middleware is that you want to have access to the ID of the user who have logged in, and we can have that access when this middleware also runs successfully, and then we can have the user inside our request body. So here, let me say grab the user from the request object, from request.user, right? So here I will say const user ID is equal to request.user dot underscore ID. Now I have the user ID here. So next is we are going to make changes to this, how you pass in this one. So here, instead of passing in the whole of request body, but we want to add the user as well. So here I'll make as an object. And what do I need? First I need title. And this title is coming from request.body.title. If you look at the postman, that's what we are doing here. And the next one will be the category. It doesn't matter about how you arrange it. Mongoose will find for you. Category will be under request.body.category. And the next one will be created by, right? Created by, and it will get from the user ID, from the request object. Perfect. And the last one will be, do I have the, so if you look at the way we did it from Postman, we are making exactly as it is. Where is it? Now, profile. Let me go to the body and author, right? So, and the author here, the author will be request.body.author. Perfect. So with this in place, now we have what? Protected our endpoint and grab the user from the ID and attach the user, the book the user is creating it. So with this in place, we are good to go. So with this, we need to head over to our front end and create an action creator to dispatch the action from the front end. Alright, so let me close. You're done with the back end stuff for now. Go to front end, SRC, Redux, actions, action types. So here, let me check. I have profile here. The constants are here. So here, inside my users action here, let me check if I have registration, login, and logout action here. So here, we need to create one more action creator here. So coming down to the last one, let me call this one profile action. Alright, so as you have seen the pattern now, how you create the action, anytime you need to create the action, dispatch it, and so with practice you'll be familiar with the syntax and how all these pieces works together. So you need to pay attention of what I'm going to do in this video, and it's really important, right? So if you would understand what is going on here, you can, based on this logic, you can also create application and do some important logics as you like it. So here, the function I'm going to create is called const. Let me call this one get user profile. The name is up to you. You can name it whatever you want, but I prefer to use get user profile, and I want to append with the user profile action. And this is going to return an object, right? And before I return an object, I need to, because it's async process, I need to have return async, and I want to dispatch. It return my anonymous function like this one, and here I have to return. I have to, get my actual action to dispatch it. So here, because we have mounted or used Redux thank, we have access to what is called dispatch in this anonymous function here. And with this dispatch function, is going to help us to dispatch any action after any async process finish, right? So here we need to, because this route is protected, so we need to what? make this action creator as what? A protected action. So we need to find a way of passing in the way we pass in the authentication into Postman. As we come here, header, and then where is it? My profile here. We came to headers, authorization, bearer, right? So we're going to pass this one as a header to our request. So that's what exactly we're going to do. So here before that, and the request is what? You pass in the token, right? So here comes the question: how can we get a token inside our action creator? And lucky to us, for this function, we have one argument, two arguments. One represents the dispatching, the action, and the one represents the state of your store. So here we have one argument called getState, right? So this getState have access to all our states inside our store here. So I'll show that one to you. So here, before we do anything, let me grab the user token from the store. So let me call this one, let me grab the user token from store, right? So here you can say const user info is equal to getState, it's a function, and there we can append getinfo.userLogin. If you want to know where I'm getting it from, and go to the extension to state user info here. Let me make it large so that you can see what I'm doing. When you go to the state here, we have user login and then user info, right? And in there we have a token. We want to grab this one from our store, and we have to make use of that function getState, right? So here we can destructure quickly from the token. So here I can destructure from this one, and I can get dot token, right? So let me show you one more time. This one, user login here and user info, and in here I have what is called the token. So here I can quickly even grab, let me make this way. Okay, it's enough. So here when I make user info.token, I will have the token like that, right? So what you're going to do next is to make dispatch the action, right? So here I'm going to make use of try and catch because I'm making use of async await, and in here I'm going to dispatch my first action. As remember, the first one will be type of user profile request auto import, perfect. And the next one is because I want to make authorized request or authentication request, I need to pass a config. So I will say const a config to my header of my request. So const config, right? Because this I'm going to pass a token to my config and then add to my header. So here I will say headers, and this headers take a couple of parameters and property, authorization. One is authorization. Remember I spelled it correctly, authorization, and authorization is what I'm going to pass in. As remember, here is what we did in Postman. So what I'm doing here is what we are finding a way, the way we did it from Postman, you find a way of doing it from the front end. So here you make use of bearer, like that, and I need to inject my token, and I get it from my user info for my store dot token. Perfect. So I've passed in that, and the last one is I have to make the request to the endpoint. So here I will say make request. So here I will say const data is equal to await and then axios dot get. Remember the endpoint I use is /API/users/profile, and then the second argument is I have to pass in my config, right? So here config, because it's post request, get request, I'm not saying anything, so I pass my config. So here I can grab the structure of the data here like that, and I need to dispatch. When everything goes on well, I'm going to dispatch my action and say type, not type of, user profile success. User profile. So I have to send this as user profile success, and I need to send data as a payload to my front end. So here I will say my payload now will be my data. Perfect. So here next is when something goes wrong, I have to dispatch an action of type user profile failed. And since I need to send a nice message to the user, I have to do a couple of tracing to get the actual error. So here on the error object, I can grab dot response, and if there's a response, then error dot response dot data dot message, and that's what we have, the actual message from our back end. So with this in place, we are done with the action. So you have to head over to our reducers and make a logic for that. So here for these reducers, I think I need to create its own reducer for it, and then as I told you, here comes what I was telling you, that I want to break down my reducers into pieces. So let me show you how these ones were done, rather than combine them on the same reducer. So when I head over to reducers, I have users and I have only one. This for off. So let me create one reducer called user profile reducer dot js, and reducer is a function that returns the state of my application, right? So here what I need is to create a function, but before that I need to import my action constants. So here I need user profile. Let me make it request quickly. User profile fail, import it, user profile success. Okay, let me even grab from this one. I can do it from here. Let me import here user double caps user, oh gosh, let me even copy this one, then just change the right. So with this and that. So user profile fail, success, what am I doing? And then request. Alright, so let me create a function now. So let's create a function. And this function is, what am I doing? Oh my god, sorry guys, I don't know why my screen is just bumping up like that. So let me create a function here and call const user profile reducer, and it's a function, and this function takes in first your initial state and your action. So here with ES6 I can pass in my initial state will be empty, and my another parameter will be my action. So here we're going to check for action.type. So here I will say switch, and if the action.type, I'm going to switch the action type. So if the case is user profile request, then I'm going to return my state and say loading to be true, right? So when everything goes on well, I will say when my case is user profile success, then I'm going to return my actual state, which will be, say, my user now will be my action on that, the payload coming from my action. Remember, on the user action, the state is available as payload, right? So dot payload, I have the actual data coming from this response. So with that, and I have to return when something goes wrong. Let me say case user profile fail. So with this, I will return this state and say here my loading will be false because at this point it has finished loading and it has given me an error, and my error property here will be my action dot payload, because remember the payload can be error or the actual data. So with this in place, we are done with our reducer, but the last is how to return my state, my default. So I will say that if there is no action coming in, my default will be my state. Perfect. So last piece of the cake is to connect this one to our store. So when you head over to our store, I'm gonna connect this, the user profile, to my store. So here I will say user profile. So user profile will be now part of my state. User profile will be user profile in caps, user profile reducer. Sorry, I'm not exporting it, so let me export it here. Export user profile reducer. So when I come to my store, it's user profile reducer auto import. So now with this, when I head over to application, we can see you will have additional states. Let me head over to my extension to dev and then make it large. Let me show you what I'm talking of. My states now have user profile, which is empty. So where do I need to call this, dispatch this action? Because the action hasn't been called yet. So here, what do I need? I need it inside my profile component. So when I head over to my profile, let me have a link. Let me make it profile here. When I come here, I want to fetch the user. So I want to fetch this, let me have this link when user logs in as a profile. So let me head over to my headers or navbar, my front end part, and my components and my navbar here. So inside my auth tabs, let me have one link here. I can even after my users, okay, let me copy this one, the link tag here, paste it, and then have access to my profile. So let me call this one profile, and the link will be head over will be to my profile. With that, so with this in place, I can now toggle from my front end profile here, users profile. Perfect. So now I'm gonna dispatch the action from my profile page, but I don't want to make this video too long, so I'll end here and continue in the next video.